So I've titled this one, Health, is it a journey or a destination? And what I'm going to do today is something a little bit different. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Actually, I'll just ask Mandy if she can make me a co-host too. So I can do that. And here we go. All right, I'll share my screen there and go on to that mode there. Mandy, you seeing that okay? All right. So I actually want to share two stories with you today, and I'm going to blend the two stories together. One story is a favorite children's book of mine because I love children's stories. Hope you do too. And the second is a story that I share this with a little bit of a reluctance because it sort of maybe could be construed as my attempt to prove that I was once an athlete. But anyway, I'll share the story anyway. But we're going to start with this. As I said, these two stories we blended through. This is Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss's work. I used to love reading the kids these books. This is Oh, the Places You'll Go. And if you haven't read it before, and you've got kids or access to kids, go and buy this one and read it to them because it's a good one. This is what it says. It says, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the guy or the girl who'll decide where to go. You look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your feet full of shoes, you're too smart to go down any not so good street. And you may not find any you want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen and frequently do to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along because you'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. All right, let's pause there on the story. This here is one of my favorite sporting events that I've done, and I've actually done it 10 times now. This is called the Gloucester Mountain Person Race. And what it is, it's a mountain bike ride for about 30 kilometers, 20 miles for our American friends. Then you paddle down a river with rapids for about 12 kilometers, which is 8 miles. And then you run 10 kilometers through the bush. It's about 6 miles. And anyway, this is a big event. And in fact, it's Australia's longest running triathlon type event, off-road triathlon. Now, a particular character in the centre there, I'd always wanted to do this event, by the way, and I'd heard about this guy here, and you can see him, he's sort of got he's turned to the side there, I don't know if you can see my cursor, and he's got the yellow, the green, a bit of red and black there. His name's Stu Adams, and he is the legend. He actually, at this point in time, when I first participated in it, he's the same age as me, older dude. I think I was just about 43 at the time I was doing this, but he had won it 9 times. And he was for his age category, Australia's top mountain bike racer. He was a former Ironman, so he's a really good paddler, and he was an A-grade runner as well. So he sort of had all these disciplines matched, and everyone knew that Stu was the man to beat. Anyway, you can see me over right at the side there, at the corner of the screen in the white. I was there, first time, showed up, and I was all excited about this, and I'd prepared for it. However, the week before, literally, the event was on the Sunday, the Monday before, I crashed my mountain bike and broke a rib. So there I was on the sideline going, originally I was thinking I won't do it at all. Then I thought, you know what, maybe I'll just go and I'll just go along slowly and get to see what it's like. And at least then next year I could come back and at least know what the course is like and have more of an idea. Anyway, I took a few pain-killing medications and then I hopped on this race. And here's the problem. I don't know about you, but because I'm a bit competitive, when I'm on a start line and all of a sudden, and it's out in the bush, this race, they start it with a gun, like a shotgun. That's how the goes, bang, that's the gun. And then everyone starts racing. And even though I had this broken rib, all of a sudden I'm like, a gun just went off. And so all of a sudden, here I am racing along. I was in about 10th place, I think. There was a couple, several hundred people doing this. But I'm going, this is going all right. And it wasn't hurting too bad, my rib. Wasn't looking forward to the paddle section. But anyway, I'm riding along, and then all of a sudden we see Stu Adams here is the hot favourite going for his 10th win. He starts to head away from the pack, and he's out on his own, and he's riding, and then we see him start to disappear, and you get into the mountains, and then all of a sudden we came around a bend, and there was Stu Adams lying on the ground with his bike broken in many pieces. And I stopped and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm all right. You keep going, keep going." Anyway, I went, "Well, okay." And everyone else was kept going, so I kept going too. Anyway, it turns out he obviously crashed. He was out of the race. And then I think everyone thought, Stewie Adams isn't in the race. This is wide open right now. And so I was just still amazed that I could ride with my broken rib. I'm riding along. I got to the end of the ride in 6th place. And then I get onto the paddle and I thought, this is going to be interesting. And I start to do a couple of strokes and I thought, that doesn't feel too bad. And I've done a lot of paddling in the past. I used to race with this. And I'm thinking, that feels okay. I can actually paddle okay. This is surprising me. It was the pain-killing medication. Anyway, I overtook a next person. Next thing, I was in 3rd place. And I'm thinking, I cannot believe this. And then I catch 2nd place. And then I catch 1st place. And now all of a sudden, I'm in the lead at the end of the paddle. Here I am, first time ever, with a broken rib in the Gloucester Mountain Man race in the lead. And I knew that running was actually my strongest leg. Cut a long story short, my first year of the Gloucester Mountain event, I actually won it, took line. I was at $1,000 prize money. I'm pretty excited about this. In fact, this is how I was feeling. And so I was very excited. And so, that whole idea of the Dr. Zeus book that, you won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and you'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. But the story doesn't end there. Except when you don't. Because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true. That bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in the lurch. So you know what? Even though I'd won the Gloucester Mountain Man, I knew that I hadn't really won it because I hadn't beaten Stewie Adams. And so I fronted up the next year, but I was fit. I knew what the course involved. I did all the training. I'd actually calculated where he was quicker and where I was quicker, and I figured out exactly a game plan on how I could beat Stewie Adams. So he was the start line, and I knew that I could run about 2 minutes quicker than him. I thought he could ride about 2 minutes quicker than me, and our paddle was about the same. So the gun goes off and we're racing, and pretty quickly Stewie Adams starts to get in front. But this time I was actually not far behind him and I was in 2nd place. And I was actually doing the calculations and I'm going, am I 2 minutes behind? I couldn't let him get too more than 2 minutes. I thought if I can stay within that zone, then and I keep it on the paddle, I could potentially catch him on the run. So I'm riding along and then we are almost getting to the end of the ride and I've done the calculation. I watched him go past the post. I timed how long it took me to get to the post and I was 45 seconds behind. I thought, this is it, I'm going. And then bang, I heard another shot and that was my tire exploding. And all of a sudden I had to then push my bike for the last 5 kilometers. And then when I got into the paddle and I started paddling, I hit a rock and my rudder ripped off my boat and then it half sunk. And then I managed to eventually limp into the finish line and Stewie won his 10th title at the Olympics, at the Gloucester Mountain Man. I turned from feeling like this to feeling more like that. And however, that is not where the story ends. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch, your gang will fly on, you'll be left in the lurch. But the story then goes on to say, no, that's not for you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where the boom bands are playing. With banner flapping once more, you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky. Ready because you're that kind of guy or gal. And you will succeed. Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you will move mountains. So, Be your name Bixbalm or Bixby or Bray or Mordecai Allied, Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Here is the year after we came back. Here we go, and you can actually see here, there's Stu Adams right in the center there in the black. You can see me over with a blue helmet, and look who I'm looking at. I know who I need to mark here. And so as the event starts to go on, Stewie pretty quickly starts to move to the front. And I jumped on his tail and hung there as long as I could. At the end of the ride, I was 1 minute behind him. I got on the paddle. We paddled the 11 kilometers down the river. Didn't change. I got at the end of the run. I was 1 minute behind him. And then we started to run. And we're running, and he's a good runner. And anyway, after about 3 kilometers into the run, I noticed I'm starting to catch him a little bit. And then, with about a couple of kilometers to go, I have this magic moment. I remember in my brain, I still can see it, that as I was running, and I've come up and pulled up right beside Stewie Adams, going for his 11th win. And I look at him and he looks at me, and then all of a sudden, we didn't feel the need to race anymore. And we actually finished those couple of kilometers together, and we actually came across the line and we were both winners. And it's only one of my favorite memories of all of the different events and sporting things. So he got his 11th win. I got my second win. And he let me keep the trophy because he said he's got heaps of them already. And we split the prize money, and it was a really amazing thing. So why do I share a story like that? Well, you know what? It actually reminds me a whole lot of my health journey. And I'm wondering if it reminds you a little bit of yours too. You see, often we think that, well, I had this idea that health, you can, and with fitness and, that you get to these pinnacle moments and then you would stay there. That's the destination, that's the objective, that's the pursuit. And what I've come to realize, sharing a story like that is that it's not like that at all. In fact, you have times, and I have had pinnacle moments, like, for example, finishing that event. In fact, I came back the next year and it was even stronger. And I had a really, really great race. And actually, Shuey wasn't there, but won it outright with a good. And I just felt strong. And I finished at the end. And it was just like, yeah, you think this is it. This is it. This is the peak of health. But you know what? Within a week, I was having to start training again because I could feel that was starting to subside. It's this precious thing I realize that health is. It's something that we have to constantly hold and support and nurture along. And this whole idea, it's a journey. And for me, I've become more and more intentional, particularly of late. My father's actually really unwell at the moment, and it's very heavy. And I've noticed that he's been so fit and vital for, all of his life. And then to have these low moments and, in the words of Hippocrates, a wise man ought to realize that his health is his most valued possession. And it's so true. I've come to realize more than ever that unless we've got our health, we actually don't have anything. Like this is the most important thing that we can possess. And so, that whole idea of just as I've shared in the stories, we have high moments, and we have low moments, and there are times where we get injured, and there are times when circumstances happen and we crash our bike and get broken ribs, and then there are other times where everything seems to go right and we feel fantastic and all the and I find that as I get older, there's less and less of those really high moments, and it's more a chance of a case of trying to get back to that spot as well. But I'm wondering, what's your experience then? So I've got some reflection questions, and I know I haven't talked about much about health in this little short presentation, but really the journey of life that we're all on, and using the kid's story and my story about Gloucester Mountain Man as a metaphor. But I'd love for you to reflect on these questions, and let's take some time to chat about that.